So today we will cover how I back up my images in Lightroom catalog. As I had mentioned in the earlier video, I do not use Lightroom's own catalog backup facility. I prefer to do that manually on my own. But before I get into that, there is one thing that we should all keep in mind. There is no replacement for backups. Always back up your work and images if you value those. For professionals, I would also advise risk management by keeping your backup in a different location as well. In case something happens, at least the backup in the other location would be available. As a techie, I am more aware of the fact that there is no replacement for backups, and I take the manual route for that most of the time. While I can use some specific software to make the job easier, maybe even automate that, I prefer to just make a manual copy instead of using some ready-made solutions. So whatever you choose, that does not really matter. What does matter is that you do keep backups. In my case, as I've already mentioned earlier, I use an external drive, and I have a folder called All Photos here and my Lightroom catalog. So all photos rather, contains year-wise and some of the older ones which are not categorized year-wise. Within the year I have the month, let's say April, and these are the shots from today. Now if you look at these files, the NEFs, these are the raw files, and for every corresponding raw file, Lightroom has created an XMP file, that's a sidecar file, which has all the information about the crop, the adjustments I have made on every one of these files. So in case I lose the catalog, I can still import and get all those settings back. Okay, so that's about the photos. Now Lightroom catalog, and as you can see I have Lightroom settings here because if you recall from the last video, I enable the XMP and I choose to keep Lightroom settings with the catalog. So all my presets, watermarks, everything is here. So when I back up this directory, the entire Lightroom catalog plus my settings and presets are all copied. Let's just take a look at where these options were. So we go into Preferences, Presets, Store presets with this catalog. So that's one of the settings. The other is we go into Catalog Preferences, Metadata, and automatically write changes into XMP. As long as these were enabled, you will get a similar structure. As long as you have that structure, it's a lot easier to back up because these are the only two folders that you need to copy wherever. My total image collection, as you can see here, is just over a terabyte after the additions of today. So I have plenty of space on the drive for now. Once I have imported images and culled them out, I back up the images to another drive that is also attached. I have the same folder here, All Photos, and a Lightroom folder. As you can see, this is another drive attached to my laptop. We have the same structure here, and as you can see, there is no April currently. So we'll do that in a while. So we have similar directory structures, and I also back up to my iMac, which has the same folders. So I use a free application called Free File Sync. It is a multi-platform application and can be downloaded from the given link. I would encourage you to watch all the video tutorials on this site, which would help you in understanding this application software and all the features it has, which might help you otherwise as well. It's a fairly simple to use application. The UI itself is very intuitive, not a whole lot to understand here. So this is what the application looks like. I have some customizations here which are in this settings. Mostly you can maybe ignore the errors, an automatic retry, filter. I have added some of these files that I do not want transferred. Synchronization, I use a mirror because I always want my current to override the backups, and that's about it. So I have a start button here which starts the compare, and this will be active once the comparison is done. So I have this all photos from my regular drive, and this is my backup folder on the other external drive. So all I need to do is hit compare. Of course, you can specifically compare only the 2020 directory because nothing else has changed actually. But because both are directly attached external drives, it's reasonably fast. So I just leave it there. And once the comparison is done, we'll get a list here. In case there's anything that comes up which is not required, we can always add a filter to skip those kind of files. So we're almost there. So these are the changes. It also shows the changes here. Maybe I made some changes which I don't recall currently. But since this is my current work drive, I would always want to image this, rather mirror this. So I click on synchronize, click on start, and the process starts. It gives you an estimate which will vary once it starts copying. Once this is done, so is the backup. You do not have to actually do one destination at a time. If your backup destinations are already connected, then you can simply click on the plus, add another folder pair. I've already done the compare, and synchronize. So the same source will now be synced with two destinations. And this is my external drive, this is my iMac network share. Because I haven't done this for a while on the iMac, we can see it's going to take a while. So once the synchronization is complete, let's take a look in the backup drive 2020 folder where we did not have the April, and now we have a complete backup. Now the only difference in my case is that I keep the Lightroom catalog on the SSD drive locally on the laptop, and then I make a backup of this to my regular drive and my external backup drive. But before I do that, I make sure I optimize the catalog because these are today's shots and I've already culled them out. So before backing up, I will optimize the catalog. So the catalog is optimized. I select my folder here, which is on my local SSD drive. This is my regular external drive which I use. I have the same folder structure here as we've already seen here, Lightroom with all the settings and presets within the catalog. So I just do the same process as earlier, do a compare. Once the comparison is done, I simply click on synchronize to mirror it. So depending on your catalog size, it can take a few minutes for the comparison. The sync, if you do it on a regular basis, will be reasonably fast. There we have it, and we just start off this. So currently, because I did not have the April and stuff already backed up, it's just gonna take a minute and a half. So we'll speed through this process. Okay, so the process has completed successfully and we can quit Free File Sync now. The thing to remember is, although I was running Lightroom while I ran the Free File Sync, it's generally a good idea to quit the applications and then do a backup. So the advantage is, if I open up the catalog from here, I will still have the same thing. If I open up the catalog from my external backup drive, I will still have the complete collection. So let me demonstrate that by quitting Lightroom. And I will eject my primary drive which I use, and now if I run Lightroom, go into the grid mode by pressing G. If you see here, we have the catalog because that's currently the local catalog, but the files are missing. So all we need to do is right click on the folder, find missing folder, and in this case I can simply point it to my backup folder, and instead of the Lassie drive we have this, and we have our entire collection back. Okay, so now we quit Lightroom again and I'll just remount my main drive, and I will now eject the backup drive. Let's run Lightroom again. And we have the same issue. So all we need to do is right click, find missing folder, and this time I simply go to my primary drive which I use all the time and select this folder. So now we are back to where we were. So that's the advantage of having a complete backup, and we can go back to the stuff from today. Okay, so this is how I choose to do my backups. There is one question that I had overlooked in the earlier video. Often we talk about how much one can crop. How small can the crop be? Now people might have varying ideas and how to go about it. My own experience from stock sites where they sell photos online tells me that almost all of them, they require at least 3000 pixels on the long side, or at least something that measures 4 megapixels. Now the problem with Lightroom is, even if we go into the loop options and if you select megapixels, it will always give you the original, not the current. Hopefully Adobe will fix this sometime. So one of these, the longer one, the larger number, has to be at least 3000 pixels. If you crop below that, then you would not be able to sell any of those images online, they would not be accepted. So that's how you would generally crop. Target to have at least 3000 pixels on the long edge. The long edge could be horizontal or vertical. Hopefully that provides some information which might be useful in the future, and we'll have some more topics coming up.